You know, usually when we talk about visions of the future, specifically the year 1984, right? There is a very rigid expectation of what that looks like.
Oh, absolutely. It's a very specific vibe.
Yeah. It's clinical, it's terrifying. I mean, if you're driving right now or sitting at your desk, just picture it.
Right, the dystopian surveillance state.
Exactly. The thought police, Big Brother, watching your every move from a telescreen.
It's all very bleak.
Uniformly gray, completely hopeless, It's just a world stripped of color.
Yeah, it's a massive cultural monolith at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, we hear the phrase 1984, and our minds just immediately jump to totalitarianism.
Right. Crushing the human spirit under a mechanized boot.
George Orwell did such an effective job cementing that year in our collective psyche that it's almost impossible to decouple the date from the dystopia.
But then, and this is what's so wild, you step into the materials you've handed us for today's deep dive.
Oh, yeah. This totally flips the script.
It really does. Suddenly, that whole Orwellian nightmare just vanishes. We're looking at an alternative reality that is shockingly close to our own, but entirely different in spirit.
Completely different.
You've handed us an incredible stack of material today. I mean, we've got the original 1904 text of G.K. Chesterton's novel, The Napoleon of Notting Hill.
Such a fantastic book.
And we also have a wealth of historical background on the book itself, plus its massive cultural footprint.
Right.
So our mission in this deep dive is to explore why this seemingly absurd, whimsical, satirical novel, which is literally about London suburbs going to war with halberds and swords, is actually one of the most profound prophetic books of the 20th century.
And joyously rebellious, too. I mean, it really is a masterpiece of subversion.
It's so weird.
It is. To set the stage for you, we have to look at the premise, which is delightfully counterintuitive.
Okay, lay it out.
Right. So it's the year 1904, and G.K. Chesterton sits down to write a novel about the far-off future of 1984.
Which, at the time, was 80 years in the future.
Yeah.
Exactly, 80 years. But instead of predicting flying cars or hyper-advanced science or dystopian mind control, well, his version of 1984 is completely, stubbornly, almost aggressively unchanged. Yeah, it's just guys in frock coats going to their boring administrative jobs.
Exactly it.
London just looks like London. I mean, there are still gaslamps.
Still horse-drawn cabs.
Yeah. It's almost as if Chesterton is trolling the very concept of science fiction.
Oh, he absolutely is. He's totally trolling the genre. And through this setup, he introduces us to some incredibly weighty themes that still resonate so loudly today.
Right.
We're going to unpack the clash between globalism and localism, the absolute sanctity of ordinary everyday life, and this beautiful radical realization that the greatest, most epic adventures don't happen in some faraway galaxy.
They start right on your own street corner.
Precisely. They start at home.
And as we unpack this, I mean, you listening at home, you're going to get some major aha moments.
Oh, for sure.
Because this obscure, funny little book actually inspired real-life revolutionaries.
Yeah, which is crazy to think about.
Like Michael Pollan's, right. A massive figure in the fight for Irish independence. The sources show he drew direct inspiration from this novel.
And it heavily influenced modern urban fantasy, too. It laid the groundwork for works like Neil Gaiman's Neverwhere.
Right. And maybe the craziest part, the historical sources suggest it might even be the secret reason George Orwell chose the specific year, 1984, for his famous novel.
It's a very compelling theory.
So to really grasp how Chesterton pulls this off, we have to start at the very beginning of the book. The opening chapter is just a masterclass in satire.
Oh, it's brilliant.
It's all about this game humanity plays called Cheat the Prophet.
It's one of the most brilliant openings in modern literature, I think. Chesterton starts by addressing the art of prophecy itself.
Like intellectuals trying to predict the future.
Right. He points out that at the beginning of the 20th century, these thinkers were utterly obsessed with predicting where society was headed.
We're talking about guys like H.G. Wells.
Exactly. H.G. Wells and others who were looking at the rapid advancements in technology and industry and just extrapolating them out into these grand, sweeping utopias.
Taking a trend and just running with it.
Yeah, taking whatever was popular at the moment and stretching it to its most absurd, logical extreme.
And the examples Chesterton gives of these clever men in the text are so bizarre and hyper-specific.
Oh, they're hilarious.
He writes about how some intellectuals worship science, predicting that just as the motor car replaced the horse-drawn coach, something even faster and more mechanical would inevitably replace the car.
Right, and Chesterton invents a character to mock this, a guy named Dr. Quilp.
The speed guy.
Yeah, Dr. Quilp, who takes the obsession with speed and efficiency to its ultimate ridiculous conclusion.
What does he suggest again? It's so funny.
Quilp suggests that the future of travel involves sending a man around the world so fast on a machine that he could keep up a continuous chatty conversation in a single village.
Just saying one word per orbit.
Yes. Just saying one word of a sentence each time he orbits the globe.
I love that. There's this incredibly vivid, kind of cartoonish image in the text of an apoplectic major sent around the Earth so fast he just looks like a continuous ring of white whiskers and tweeds.
Circling the planet like the rings of Saturn.
You can just picture this blur of tweed orbiting the Earth. It really highlights how silly tech utopianism can get.
And then he pivots to mock the exact opposite extreme, right?
Oh, the back to nature crowd.
Yeah, the people who thought the future was about returning to primitive purity.
Right. He mentions a character named Dr. James Pickey. And this guy theorizes that men would be immensely improved by grazing like cows.
It's so absurd.
So he just turns a bunch of respectable city men out on all fours into a field covered with veal cutlets.
Which is such a surreal image.
Veal cutlets!
I know. But what Chesterton is doing with this surreal humor is launching a devastating critique of the political and social extremes of his day.
He's making fun of people who view humanity as a blank slate.
Exactly. A slate that could be engineered. For instance, he targets the aggressive, expansionist imperialism of the late Victorian era.
Like Cecil Rhodes.
Right. Rhodes believed the British Empire was the only viable future for civilization. So, to parody this, Chesterton creates a character named Dr. Zoppi.
Oh, gosh, Dr. Zoppi. This one is dark.
It really is. Zoppi takes the idea of empire so far that he advocates for a specific kind of imperial cannibalism.
Eating people to absorb them into the empire?
Yeah, eating members of the empire to fully absorb them. But because Dr. Zoppi lives in London, he's forced to subsist entirely on Italian organ grinders.
It is incredibly dark, but it perfectly punctures the self-seriousness of imperial expansion.
It really does.
I mean, if you're listening to this and thinking about our modern tech billionaires predicting that we'll all be living in the metaverse or, uploading our consciousness to the blockchain by 2050, it's the exact same dynamic.
We still have these clever men making these wild linear predictions today.
We really do. But all these frantic prophecies from Chesterton's intellectuals lead to what actually happens in his version of 1984.
Which is absolutely nothing.
Nothing at all.
Humanity essentially plays this game of cheat the prophet, or, as he also calls it, keep tomorrow dark.
How does the game work?
Basically, the players respectfully listen to all the clever men predict the future, they wait for the clever men to die, they bury them nicely, and then they go do something else entirely.
That is so deeply human.
Isn't it? And the philosophical point Chesterton is making here is profound. Humanity is not a straight line on a graph that you can just extrapolate into the future.
Right.
Human beings are fickle, they are mystical, they are contradictory, and fundamentally, they lean on tradition.
So the common people didn't become super scientists or grazing cows.
No, they just kept being ordinary people.
They successfully resist the sociological experiments of the intellectual elite. But, and here's where I have a question, if we look at the political reality of this 1984 he creates, it is definitely not a utopia.
Far from it.
Because democracy is dead, right?
Yes, completely dead.
Not because of a violent, bloody coup, but through sheer suffocating apathy.
The text tells us that the people lost faith in revolutions because they no longer believed in anything positive and divine outside of their existing comfortable customs.
So the government has just devolved into an entirely impersonal bureaucracy.
Exactly. Even the King of England is no longer a royal bloodline.
Yeah, the king is just a randomly selected official drawn from a pool of government clerks. It's like jury duty.
That's a great way to put it. Jury duty for the monarchy.
So I have to challenge this premise for a second.
Go for it.
Is Chesterton actually saying that a completely static, unevolving, politically apathetic society is a victory for the common people?
Oh.
Because to me, that sounds like a depressing bureaucratic nightmare. It sounds like he's glorifying stagnation.
That is the exact tension Chesterton wants you to wrestle with. You're hitting on the core paradox of the setting. On one hand, yes, the people won a negative victory. They successfully avoided being turned into cogs in a utopian machine or lab rats for the intellectuals.
Which is good. That is a victory for common sense.
Right. But on the other hand, the cost of that victory was a descent into a gray, mechanical, soulless existence.
They survived, but they forgot how to live.
Precisely. Chesterton is heavily critiquing the mechanical nature of modern politics. He hated this pervasive idea that government is just an administrative machine to be managed for maximum efficiency, rather than a living human community to be loved and nurtured.
So by creating a society that is perfectly stable but completely spiritually dead, he's basically packing a powder keg.
He is. He's showing us a world that is so sensible, so incredibly boring, that it is desperately crying out for a spark of madness to wake it up.
And in Chesterton's worldview, that spark of madness is synonymous with art, right?
Art, poetry, and romance, yes.
Which means if the serious politicians and the intellectuals can't provide that spark, it has to come from somewhere completely irrational.
It has to come from a joke.
A joke. And that spark arrives in the form of two incredibly weird, fascinating characters that drive the entire narrative. Let's introduce the first one. Oberon Quinn.
Ah, King Oberon.
Yes. So Oberon Quinn is this low-level government clerk who is eventually chosen entirely at random from the pool to be the King of England.
And physically, he's described in a very specific way.
Right. He's a small man who looks like a cross between a baby and an owl.
A baby and an owl.
And he collects Japanese lacquer, he reads medieval French poetry.
And he has this brilliant but profoundly detached and slightly unhinged perspective on the world around him.
He's the ultimate troll.
He really is. He just wants a good joke to break up the monotony.
There's this amazing moment early in the book. He's walking to work with two other very serious, very boring government clerks.
Barker and Lambert.
Right. And they are dressed in identical drab frock coats, just discussing mundane administrative policies.
And suddenly, Quinn's perspective shifts.
Yes. He doesn't see two boring men anymore. He looks at the slit in their coattails and the two buttons on the back, and he suddenly realizes they look like two black dragons walking backwards.
It's such a brilliant description.
Two black dragons walking backwards, and that single bizarre vision changes the entire universe for him.
Because it's the realization that the modern utilitarian world, a world that takes itself so incredibly seriously, is actually completely ridiculous if you just tilt your head and look at it from a slightly different angle.
The drab uniform of the bureaucrat is really just a funny costume.
Exactly. But Quinn's internal desire to mock this overly serious world is catalyzed into action by a very specific pivotal event.
Right. The spark of Nicaragua.
Let's call it that, yes. The spark of Nicaragua.
This scene is so crucial to the philosophy of the book. Quinn and his bureaucratic friends are eating at a restaurant surrounded by the grayness of London.
And suddenly they see this man sitting there.
In a brilliant green uniform with silver facings, looking like an absolute king from a forgotten era.
This is Juan del Fuego, the ex-president of Nicaragua.
And Fuego looks at a mustard poster on a wooden hoarding nearby. He tears a strip of bright yellow paper from it and pins it to his chest.
And then it gets intense.
Very. He asks a waiter for a pen, stabs his own hand, soaks a piece of his white handkerchief in his own bright red blood, and pins that right next to the yellow paper.
It's this beautifully dramatic, visceral moment that completely shatters the polite quiet of the restaurant.
And when Quinn and his friends ask him what on earth he is doing, Fuego explains that Nicaragua has been conquered and formally annexed by the big powers of the world.
Right. It has been erased from the map for the sake of global efficiency.
But to him, Nicaragua is not just a line on a map, it is an eternal idea. And the colors of his country's flag are red and yellow.
The dialogue here is incredible. He tells them, wherever there is a field of poppies and a yellow patch of sand, there is Nicaragua.
Wherever I see a red pillar box and a yellow sunset, there my heart beats. Blood and a splash of mustard can be my heraldry.
The poetry of that is just stunning.
He is finding the soul of his lost nation in the most mundane items of a London street.
But of course, one of the bureaucrats with Quinn Barker immediately pushes back against this romance.
Because Barker is the voice of the system.
Right. Barker gives what is essentially the ultimate modern technocratic argument. He says, look, we believe in a great cosmopolitan civilization.
He tells Fuego that small nationalities are an outdated superstition.
Barker's argument is basically, we don't hate Nicaragua. We just think everyone should be part of a unified, global, frictionless system. It's better for trade, it's better for administration, it's just better.
And right there, Chesterton has laid out the core philosophical debate of the book.
And frankly, one of the core debates of the modern world.
Yeah, globalization versus localism.
Barker represents globalization, standardization, administrative efficiency, the erasure of borders.
And Fuego represents localism, particularity, messy romantic patriotism.
The deep human need to belong to a specific, unique place.
And As our historical sources note, Chesterton is tapping into real political currents here. I mean, this was an era of empires consolidating power.
Absolutely. The British Empire was at its peak.
But in the context of the story, Fuego's intense bleeding passion completely electrifies Oberon Quinn.
It does. Because Quinn, shortly after witnessing this, is randomly selected to be king.
King Oberon.
He suddenly has absolute, unquestioned power over this boring society.
And he used that power to mandate the most elaborate, ridiculous prank in human history.
It really is.
He drafts something called the Charter of the Cities. He forces all the boring cosmopolitan bureaucrats of London to wear elaborate medieval costumes.
To carry all birds.
And adopt local heraldry based on their specific London suburbs.
It is a sweeping mandate of forced whimsy. The provost of North Kensington has to wear purple plumes.
The provost of South Kensington wears dark blue.
They have to build city walls, establish city guards, and fly local banners.
And King Oberon thinks it's the funniest thing in the world.
He's just laughing at these serious administrative men by forcing them to play dress-up.
His goal is to puncture their self-importance by imposing romance on them from the top down.
He thinks he's running the ultimate satirical social experiment.
But then, the joke violently backfires. It
Right.
backfires because of the second central figure of our story, Adam Wayne.
Right, Adam Wayne.
Adam Wayne is a 19-year-old red-headed kid who is appointed as the provost of Notting Hill.
And the contrast between King Oberon and Adam Wayne is the engine that drives the rest of the novel.
How so?
Well, Oberon Quinn operates with complete ironic detachment, right?
Mm.
He thinks everything is a joke, a farce.
Yeah, he's the troll.
Adam Wayne, on the other hand, operates with deadly, unyielding sincerity. He takes everything with absolute seriousness.
He's a poet.
He is. He actually wrote a book of poetry called Hymns on the Hill. But instead of writing about babbling brooks or majestic mountains, he writes about the urban landscape of London.
To him, the gas lamps of London are as eternal and mysterious as the stars.
And the paved streets are as ancient and sacred as mountain ridges.
Okay, I have to bring up a modern analogy here because it perfectly captures what happens next.
Let's hear it.
Think about modern internet culture. It's like when a niche forum or a subreddit invents a completely ridiculous meme purely to troll outsiders.
Right.
Everyone on the inside knows it's a joke.
Mm.
But then someone new joins the group, doesn't realize it's a joke, and starts treating the meme as a profound, literal religious text.
Yes, that is exactly what Adam Wayne does.
Wayne sees the ridiculous red robes and the ceremonial sword that King Oberon issues to him, and he doesn't laugh.
He drops to his knee.
He kisses the sword,
Yeah.
and he pledges his actual blood to defend the sacred honor of Notting Hill.
And King Oberon is just sitting on his throne thinking, wait, you actually think this is real?
Exactly. Dude, it's a bit.
Your analogy hits the nail on the head. Chesterton is drawing a sharp, brilliant distinction here between the satirist and the fanatic.
The satirist laughs, the fanatic reveres.
The satirist, Quinn, looks at the absurdity of the world and laughs at it to cope. The fanatic, Wayne, looks at the absurdity of the world and finds deep, literal meaning in it.
Wayne's poetic perspective is beautifully summed up in a line from his poetry that Chesterton includes.
Oh, I know the one.
A street is going somewhere and a meadow nowhere.
That's a striking line.
A street is going somewhere and a meadow nowhere. It completely flips the romantic ideal of nature on its head.
It really does. Wayne genuinely believes that the city, precisely because it was built by human beings with purpose, with history, and with labor, is inherently sacred.
A meadow is just biology, but a street is human intention.
He sees the hidden romance of everyday life.
So we have the king who thinks it's all a joke, and the provost who is willing to die for the joke.
A dangerous combination.
What happens when the rubber meets the road? Or rather, when the road meets the suburb?
The central conflict.
Right. The conflict kicks off because the modern developers, specifically a man named Buck, who is the provost of North Kensington, and Barker from South Kensington, they want to demolish a small, seemingly insignificant street in Notting Hill called Pump Street.
Pump Street.
They want to tear it down to build a big, efficient thoroughfare that connects the boroughs.
That's the classic battle, isn't it? Modernization versus preservation. Efficiency versus heritage.
The bureaucrats look at Pump Street and just see a bottleneck.
A line on a map blocking their progress.
But to Adam Wayne, the provost of Notting Hill, Pump Street is sacred ground.
It's his homeland.
It doesn't matter that it's just a row of ordinary shops. It is his row of ordinary shops. And he flat out refuses to surrender it.
And because he takes King Oberon's Charter of the Cities literally,
Yeah.
He decides to go to war to defend it.
A literal war.
He goes on this incredible recruitment drive among the local tradesmen of Notting Hill.
Which is funny because these are not soldiers.
No. He has to convince dentists and chemists and grocers to take up halberds and become warriors.
And the method he uses to persuade them is fascinating. He doesn't appeal to their anger or their greed.
No, he does it by revealing the hidden romance in their everyday, mundane professions.
There's that pivotal scene where he goes to Mr. Mead, the local grocer.
Oh, the grocer speech is fantastic.
Instead of just asking for help, Wayne elevates the concept of a grocery store into something mythological. I want to read a bit of it, because Wayne tells the grocer that he literally holds the whole world in his tiny shop.
He does.
He says, "Your dates may come from the tall palms of Barbary, your sugar from the strange islands of the tropics, your tea from the secret villages of the Empire of the Dragon."
He paints the grocer as a master of global trade.
But then he immediately grounds it locally. He reminds the grocer that despite holding the wealth of the globe, his strength, his character, the very brain that wields these interests was formed between the gray houses and under the rainy sky of Notting Hill.
This is a profound observation by Chesterton. It touches on the theological underpinnings of his work. Wayne is elevating the mundane, a pillar box, a grocery store, a chemist shop, into the realm of the sacred. Our sources point out the underlying Christian themes quietly woven into this text.
Like the idea of incarnation.
Exactly. Incarnation, the concept of humility, and the deeply held belief that the greatest meaning is often found in the smallest, most overlooked places.
It's like he views Pump Street as a new Nazareth.
That's a perfect comparison. Nazareth was a small, seemingly insignificant village, a backwater that the powerful Roman Empire wouldn't look twice at.
Right.
Yet out of that small place came a spirit that changed the entire world. Wayne sees Pump Street in the exact same light.
He really does. He goes to the chemist, Mr. Bowles, and talks about the elfish mystery and the witchery of mixing glowing liquids in glass jars.
It makes it sound magical.
And he goes to Mr. Turnbull, a man who owns a toy shop and spends his days playing with tin soldiers. Wayne tells him his life hasn't been a waste, that he's going to use his tactical genius for a real war.
He makes these ordinary people feel extraordinary by showing them the poetry in their daily labor.
Okay, I love the poetry of this, but I have to push back hard here.
All right, let's hear the pushback.
Because if we strip away the romance for a second and look at what Adam Wayne is actually doing, isn't this just extreme NIMBYism?
NIMBYism, not in my backyard.
Yeah. He's halting public infrastructure that connects people, he's stopping commerce, and he's literally risking lives and starting a bloody war just to save a few local shops from being modernized.
That is a very fair critique.
How is he not just a regressive fanatic standing in the way of human progress?
If this were happening today, Wayne would absolutely be pilloried in the press as a regressive NIMBY obstructing public transit, no doubt.
Right.
But Chesterton is offering a psychological insight here into the nature of true patriotism versus nationalism or imperialism.
Okay, how does he distinguish them?
According to the text, true patriotism never boasts of the largeness of a country. It always boasts of its smallness.
The smallness, how does that work?
Think about it this way. The empire builder, the bureaucrat, loves his empire the way a man loves a machine.
He loves it for its efficiency, its scale.
Right, its power to dominate. But the true patriot loves his city or his neighborhood the way a man loves a child or a frail mother, precisely because it is fragile, vulnerable, and irreplaceable.
Ah, I see.
Wayne loves Notting Hill, not because it is the best borough in London, not because it is powerful, but because it is his.
If you think about real-world parallels, it's like the fierce, almost irrational love people have when they defend their local rundown dive bar from being demolished to build a generic, shiny Starbucks.
Exactly. They aren't arguing the dive bar is architecturally superior.
No, they are arguing that it contains their history, their community, their soul.
Chesterton is arguing that a world where everywhere looks exactly the same, the vision of the bureaucrats, is a world not worth living in.
So Wayne rallies his grocers and his chemists with this philosophy. And that leads us to the actual conflict.
The war.
Yeah, this isn't just a metaphorical war of words in a courtroom. They actually fight.
Yes, and they fight in the streets with medieval halberds and swords.
Because King Oberon banned modern weapons as part of his elaborate joke.
Right. He mandated the halberds.
Wayne and his small band of local tradesmen are vastly outnumbered by the massive, organized armies of the other boroughs. South Kensington, Bayswater, Paddington.
But they have a secret weapon.
Mr. Turnbull,
The toy shop owner.
who has spent his entire life planning military strategies on a miniature scale with his tin soldiers.
And the tactical execution is incredible. Turnbull looks at the urban landscape not as a city, but as a battlefield.
He uses the very infrastructure of the city, the things the bureaucrats built for efficiency, to defeat them.
Yes.
In the pivotal battle, they capture the local water tower and release 50,000 tons of water down a steep hill to wash away the advancing army of South Kensington.
It's brilliant.
And they systematically turn out the gas lamps to plunge the enemy into darkness and ambush them in the narrow alleys.
So Wayne and his grocers and chemists fighting for their homes actually win.
They win. The grand cosmopolitan Ernie of South Kensington is forced to surrender to the tiny suburb of Notting Hill.
It is a massive underdog victory.
Huge.
And then, Chesterton pulls off a masterful narrative twist that elevates the book from a simple fairy tale to a complex political philosophy.
He jumps the story forward.
He jumps forward 20 years.
20 years later.
Yes. For 2 decades, Notting Hill has been the dominant force in London, and its victory has completely changed the culture of the city.
The idealism and romantic patriotism of Adam Wayne has infected everyone.
Everyone.
Right? Now Hammersmith has built a giant silver hammer monument to celebrate itself.
Knightsbridge has erected a massive bronze knight on a bridge.
Everyone has caught the patriotism bug. The gray bureaucracy is gone. But when we look closely, it's not a utopia.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
Because Notting Hill, the small, scrappy underdog that fought for its local independence against the big bullies,
Has essentially become the bully.
it has become an empire.
Wow.
The provost of South Kensington, Parker, comes to King Auberon and complains that Notting Hill is now a tyrant,
They are forcing their specific brand of idealism on everyone else.
meddling in their affairs, vetoing their local decisions. For example, Notting Hill stops Bayswater from building a statue of one of their own generals, claiming it doesn't fit the aesthetic.
Wait. So Wayne became the villain.
Wow.
He turned into the exact kind of globalizing, standardizing, meddling force that he fought against in the first place. He became the empire.
It absolutely looks that way at first glance. The persecuted has become the persecutor. It's the paradox of any successful revolutionary movement.
So how does Wayne justify it?
When Wayne is confronted by the angry crowds of the other cities, he offers a fascinating, complex defense. He doesn't deny that Notting Hill holds power, but he argues that Notting Hill didn't oppress them, it created them.
Created them? How?
Wayne points out that before Notting Hill rebelled and showed them how to love their own local streets, Hammersmith didn't care about its Broadway.
Bayswater didn't care about building statues.
They were all just gray cogs in a machine. Wayne says to the crowd, "You wish to pull down that gigantic silver hammer, fools." Before Notting Hill arose, did any person passing through Hammersmith Broadway expect to see there a gigantic silver hammer?
Ah, I understand. He breathed life and poetry into his enemies.
Exactly.
He taught them how to be patriots, and now they're using that patriotism against him.
Precisely. Wayne explicitly compares Notting Hill to Athens and to Nazareth.
Okay, let's break that down.
Athens wasn't an empire that physically forced people to wear Greek clothes. Its intellectual soul went forth and gave the world a template for civilization, art, and philosophy.
And Nazareth.
Nazareth was a tiny, overlooked village that gave the world a faith that transformed the Roman Empire.
So Wayne is saying that Notting Hill gave the other suburbs the ultimate gift. The gift of civic pride and a soul.
But because he gave them that pride, they now have the pride and the self-respect to fight back against him.
It's the ultimate paradox of empire.
It really is. Once a local movement is victorious and its ideas spread and become the dominant culture, it struggles desperately not to become the very sweeping uniform empire it originally resisted.
Because now, the other suburbs form a massive alliance. 100 cities against Notting Hill to crush Wayne's empire once and for all.
Which brings us to the climax of the book.
The ultimate philosophical resolution of these ideas.
Right.
The final battle is brutal. The combined forces of London descend on Notting Hill.
Notting Hill is vastly outnumbered.
Adam Wayne fights valiantly, but his army is destroyed. The empire of Notting Hill falls.
And in the bloody aftermath of this war, we get this stunning, quiet scene between the two men who started it all, King Auberon Quinn and Adam Wayne.
It's an incredibly evocative scene. It's set in the debris of the battlefield, among the fallen halberds, just as the white dawn is breaking over London.
And Auberon Quinn, the king who mandated the costumes and the heraldry, finally confesses the truth to Wayne.
He tells Wayne that the entire charter of the cities, the flags, the halberds, the robes, it was all a massive, vulgar, practical joke.
He says he never cared for it. He just wanted to laugh at the serious bureaucrats.
He tells Wayne he has been fighting and dying for a prank.
You would expect Wayne to be absolutely furious. I mean, his friends died for this. His city is in ruins.
But his reaction is not anger.
No, it's joy.
He literally springs down and shakes the king's hand.
Because Wayne realizes a profound philosophical truth in that exact moment.
Yeah.
He doesn't feel betrayed.
He tells Quinn that they are not two different men, they are one man.
He says we are mad because we are two lobes of the same brain, and that brain has been cloven in two.
Let's really unpack that metaphor of the two lobes of the brain because it feels like the core message of the entire book.
It is. Chesterton is using this conversation to argue that a healthy human soul in a healthy society requires a balance of both laughter and love, humor and reverence.
Auberon Quinn represents the pure satirist.
Right. The man who can laugh at everything but respects nothing. He sees the absurdity, but he has no grounding, no loyalty.
And Adam Wayne represents the pure fanatic.
The man who loves and respects deeply, but has absolutely no sense of humor, no ability to step back and see the absurdity of things.
Separated, they cause chaos.
Yes. Quinn's cynical joke caused a war. Wayne's humorless sincerity caused an oppressive empire.
But together, they represent the complete human experience.
As Wayne beautifully says in the text, laughter and love are everywhere. The cathedrals built in the ages that love God are full of blasphemous grotesques.
That is such a powerful image. The sacred cathedral with the funny, ugly gargoyle carved right into the side of it.
You need both. You need the joke and the reverence.
If you have too much of Quinn's satirical laughter without Wayne's earnest love, you get what we might call today irony poisoning.
Exactly, irony poisoning. You get a society where everyone is cynical, everything is a meme, and no one actually cares enough to build or defend anything.
But if you have too much of Wayne without Quinn, you get fanaticism, puritanism, and ultimately tyranny.
It's a delicate balance. And the book ends with the two of them, the satirist and the fanatic, walking off together into the sunrise,
Finally united.
to wander the world.
It's a beautiful ending. And if we look at the literary connections and the legacy of this 1904 novel, as our sources highlight, this unique blend of absurdity and deep spiritual meaning became G.K. Chesterton's absolute trademark.
Oh, without a doubt. You see it vividly in his later masterpiece, The Man Who Was Thursday.
Which also deals with surreal conspiracies, anarchists, and profound theological truths wrapped in a thriller.
And you see it in his famous Father Brown detective stories.
Right, where the unassuming, slightly comical Catholic priest solves murders not by looking at footprints or cigarette ash like Sherlock Holmes,
But by understanding the deep, messy depths of human sin and grace.
and the real-world impact of this specific book is just wild. We mentioned Michael Collins at the top of the show.
Yes, the Irish Revolutionary.
The man who led the bloody, real-world fight for Irish independence read this fantastical book about a small, stubborn neighborhood fighting off a massive empire, and it genuinely inspired him.
It gave him a romantic framework for defending a small nation against a sprawling bureaucracy.
It provided a vocabulary for the romance of the underdog.
And then there's the title itself, right? The Napoleon of Notting Hill is set in 1984.
Yeah, 1984.
Many literary historians, as noted in our sources, speculate that when George Orwell was writing his bleak, totalitarian warning about the future, he specifically chose the year 1984 as a direct nod to, or perhaps a profound argument with, Chesterton's book.
That is fascinating to think about. Chesterton's 1984 was about the triumph of the human spirit, the messy, funny, passionate reality of local communities defying sterile bureaucracy through sheer stubbornness and poetry.
While Orwell's 1984 was about the bureaucracy winning, optimizing its cruelty, and crushing the human spirit entirely.
They're two sides of the same coin, having a conversation across decades.
And its influence extends right into modern pop culture.
Yeah.
I mean, Neil Gaiman quotes the Napoleon of Notting Hill at the start of his novel Neverwhere.
Which is literally a book about the hidden magical reality lurking underneath the mundane streets and tube stations of London.
Even the classic video game Deus Ex references it.
Really?
Yeah. This book has its fingers in so many cultural pies because its core message is timeless.
It's a prophetic warning about centralization
about the tragic loss of local identity in an increasingly globalized world.
and the inherent danger of treating politics merely as a machine to be optimized rather than a human community to be nurtured.
Absolutely.
So, bringing it all home for you listening, why does this deeply weird, wonderful book from 1904 matter to you today, right now?
It's a great question.
Yes, it's a historical warning about globalism and standardization, but on a much more personal level, it's an invitation.
An invitation to look around you.
Exactly. It's an invitation to view your own neighborhood, your local grocery store, your street lamps, your specific corner of the world with a renewed sense of romance and wonder.
It's about realizing that the place you live isn't just a point on a GPS map.
It's a place with history, with character, with a soul that is worth defending and loving.
Chesterton is reminding us that the greatest adventures often begin close to home. We don't need to travel to the rings of Saturn or build a utopian empire to find meaning.
Ordinary places become extraordinary simply when they are loved.
Beautifully said.
Which leaves us with a final, lingering thought directly inspired by the end of this book. The next time you walk down a completely mundane street in your hometown, whether it's lined with strip malls or old brick houses, ask yourself, are you seeing it through the eyes of the bureaucrat who only sees infrastructure, concrete, traffic flow, and tax codes? Or are you seeing it through the eyes of the poet who sees a kingdom worth defending?
Is it possible that the only thing keeping your daily routine from being an epic adventure is your own refusal to take it seriously?
Thank you so much for bringing such an incredible set of sources to the table. This has been a truly fantastic deep dive into the heart of Notting Hill. Until next time, keep exploring,